What's good? It's Woog. So Taylor Swift made a social media splash by accusing former longtime manager Scooter Braun of incessant manipulative bullying and accused both Braun and her former record label's owner Scott Borchetta of controlling a woman who didn't want to be associated with them in perpetuity forever. Perpetuity. Nice one, Taylor. See, Scooter Braun's company, Ithaca Holdings, just purchased Big Machine Records for $300 million, and in doing so, bought the ownership of Big Machine's music catalog, including the master recordings of Taylor Swift's 6 albums. That is every Taylor Swift album to date. So Scott Borchetta is selling Big Machine Records to Scooter Braun's Ithaca Holdings for $300 million, yet Borchetta will remain CEO of Big Machine Records and also gains a minority stake in Scooter Braun's Ithaca Holdings company. It's a lot of one hand washes the other business-wise. So Big Machine Records, the label founder Scott Borchetta used to work at Universal's MCA Records and later the Nashville division of DreamWorks Records before starting his own label, Big Machine Records, in 2005 after that DreamWorks division was acquired by Universal. Universal Music Group is a monster. In Big Machine's beginning, its main artist was a young Taylor Swift, whose parents were approached by Borchetta after he'd seen a 14-year-old Taylor perform at the Bluebird Cafe in Nashville. Toby Keith, the modern country music legend, was an early partial owner of the label and then left in 2006, but remained a smaller equity owner. Taylor Swift's dad, Scott Swift, also owns a small percentage. So now we have a Scott, another Scott, and a Scooter. Taylor remained with Big Machine through all 6 of her smash albums. She came out on fire with her self-titled debut in 2006 and never cooled off. She's been on an incredible 6-album run, with only one album selling less than 4 million records, that being her latest album, 2018's Reputation. Well, today, in 2019, Taylor Swift is pissed and said that while walking away from the label after that 6th album, Reputation, she knew that someday Borchetta was going to sell the label, but that it's a worst nightmare and a worst case scenario that he'd sell it to her former manager, Scooter Braun, one of music's biggest managers, managing Kanye, Justin Bieber, Ariana Grande, Demi Lovato, and others, and a guy who Taylor describes as having a very adversarial relationship. Taylor also claims that she learned about Braun buying the label on the internet at the same time the public learned about it. Now Borchetta replied, saying that Scott Swift, Taylor's dad, through his rep, 19 management attorney Jay Shoddy's, was notified of the pending deal in a shareholder call on Tuesday, June 25th, and that the 5 stakeholders would vote on that deal on Friday. They then voted in favor of the deal 3-2. Scott Borchetta also said that he texted Taylor about the deal that Saturday night, just before the Sunday morning when the news broke. Quick thought here. I'd imagine that Taylor Swift might not read all of her Saturday night text messages before Sunday morning. I know that I often don't, and I don't have nearly the text action that Taylor Swift does, assuming she even manages her own phone. So I think that it's totally believable that Swift did find out on Sunday morning if she hadn't seen Borchetta's text and if her dad nor any other Big Machine label stakeholder told her anything from the Tuesday that it was on the table through the Friday that it was voted on to the Sunday that it was announced to the press and through the press. Now, if that's the case, that's pretty cold. But Taylor Swift's rep told People magazine that Taylor's dad was never on the board of directors and didn't participate in that call because of a strict NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, that would have prohibited her dad, Scott, from hearing some news and then going to tell Taylor. He supposedly didn't want to have to keep the news from his daughter, which I wonder how much he would have been able to disclose. Like, was he prohibited from telling Taylor anything about the upcoming vote, the potential deal on the table, or could he say nothing at all to her about any of the material facts of the deal? Borchetta also said that Taylor did indeed have a chance to stay with the label and essentially work off her ownership of her music and any picture, video, or any piece of media associated with her. He wasn't specific as to how much she should have to work to earn what percentage back, but Taylor claims that she would have to earn each album's ownership rights with every one new recorded album. Jeez. So that means that Taylor would be buying her first 6 albums by recording albums 7-12 with Big Machine Records. Borchetta claims that Taylor went over this offer with 13 Management and super attorney Don Passman, who's actually the author of this wonderful book, Everything You Need to Know About the Music Business. For anyone who's interested in participating in any part of the music business, this is a very, very instructive and insightful read, a goldmine of information. This might be inverted, but believe me when I tell you, it's All You Need to Know About the Music Business by Donald Passman. There you go. Great book. Well, Taylor supposedly went through the offer with her team and decided to entertain the offers of other labels, eventually signing with Republic, whose parent company is you guessed it, Universal Music Group, where she'll supposedly own the masters of this upcoming 7th album, Lover and Onward. This probably sounds a little crazy, as in, how can Taylor Swift not easily purchase the rights to her own music? She reportedly has a net worth of about $300 million. Well, this label sold for $300 million, so she couldn't afford it all on her own, and she's not as adept in finance as the crafty manager turned mogul, Scooter Braun. Granted, it's the label that sold for $300 million and not just Taylor's music, although her music's worth obviously makes up a huge portion of the total. This was really just a hard lesson in business and really highlights the reality of many artists, even many of the great artists. Owning one's masters is a huge deal, and it looks like Braun quietly positioned himself to acquire the label's catalog and Swift's music, as once upon a time, Michael Jackson, who received great music financial advice from the Beatles' Paul McCartney, went on to buy the publishing rights of the Beatles' catalog. It's a cold game. The business of music and music ownership can be ruthless, and this one was apparently deeply hurtful to Swift on a personal level because of who it was who would become the owner of all of the music that she's recorded up to this date. In Taylor's Tumblr post, she also accused Braun of getting 2 of his other clients, Kanye West and Justin Bieber, to bully Swift online after Kim Kardashian supposedly secretly recorded a phone call to give the impression that Taylor Swift would approve of Kanye's vulgar mention of her on Famous before releasing a video for it that featured a naked, lifelike Taylor Swift replica model. Justin Bieber responded saying that this bullying post about the matter that included Braun and Kanye in the picture was solely his idea and that Braun actually reprimanded him for posting it. Nevertheless, there are certainly both business and personal components to this story. And Swift is somewhat appealing to the modern crowd by saying that what Borchetta means when he says that music has value is that the value is beholden to men who had no part in creating it. She also played to the crowd a bit with her accusation of both Braun and Borchetta of controlling a woman who didn't want to be associated with them. Now this is the case, but it's really no different business-wise from what is very common practice in the industry in terms of the detachment of an artist from one's own masters and an ownership of the masters. News recently broke of a bunch of Universal Music Group's catalogs masters burning in a fire just over a decade ago. The news had just broke, but the fire had taken place a while ago. And did you see some of the names on that list? The idea that some of the greatest artists in recorded history, from Ray Charles to the Eagles to Eminem to Aretha Franklin, would have their master recordings housed at their record label and not privately. I don't know if 100% of the music caught in the fire was exclusively owned by Universal, but best believe that much of it was. So each of these artists could make a similar claim that Taylor's making in terms of the moral injustice of an artist not owning their own music. The only difference here is what Swift interprets as a personal issue and not a professional one. Huge purchase for Scooter Braun. Big Machine Records does currently have some other big name artists who, unlike Taylor Swift, who started and then continued the prime of her career there, many of these artists came to the label after achieving major success elsewhere, like Lady Antebellum, Florida Georgia Line, Reba McEntire, Rascal Flatts, Sugarland, Jennifer Nettles from Sugarland, and more. They also used to be one of Zac Brown Band's labels. So we'll see what becomes of the music that they're releasing and how the label continues to do overall without Taylor Swift. And also keep an eye on how Scooter Braun can leverage this to enrich himself and elevate his overall position in the entertainment world. Very interesting purchase, and I really don't think that this was solely motivated by a personal vendetta. I mean, there might have been a gratifying gotcha for him if he really does dislike Swift, which he denies, but I don't know if I buy. But this was way too much money to spend if there isn't a real, legitimate, business-related reason to desperately want the Big Machine label, which again is becoming a major force in country music, and all of the masters that come with it. So thanks for joining us. I know that this is a lot of info, but some of these transactions can get a bit complicated. But you now know much of what you need to know to base an opinion, so please fire away. I hope for Taylor's sake that she has success with this next label, because it's a real possibility that her next 3 to 4 albums don't sell nearly as well as the first 6 based on the common arc or trajectory of an artist's career. But she'd still own her new masters going forward, so it's also possible that in selling fewer records and streams that she still stands to make more money. But let me know your thoughts. I'm Woog. Thanks for tuning in.